Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. It's funny how things can turn around so suddenly. You know, 1 minute you're on the floor, the next minute you're climbing the ladder again. And this has happened with Reece Bellotti, who very recently in 25th, what was it, Saturday the 26th, I think, of last month. So only less than 2 weeks ago, he fought Ryan Garner for his British, Commonwealth, and also Garner's EBU super feather titles, and he got stopped in 12 rounds, Bellotti. And that left his record with, he had 20 wins with 15 KOs. He's got 6 defeats now, 3 by stoppage. But he'd been on a very, very good run. He'd beaten Yousef Hamani, Akib Fiaz, Liam Dillon, Michael Gomez Jr. You know, he'd been collecting belts, area belt first, Commonwealth, British. He's actually a 2-weight Commonwealth champ, is Reece Bellotti. And then he bumps into Padley, and it's like snakes and ladders, you might think. You know, you get all the way up there, and then the snake gets you, and down you go. Or chutes and ladders, I think they call it in America, but you know what I mean. Well, it's not quite been like that. He hasn't gone all the way back to the beginning, because suddenly, out of nowhere, he's got another fight in October. This is on the undercard of the Dave Allen MAKHMUDOV fight. And I think it's October the 11th. And he's going to be fighting the former world title challenger, Josh Padley. Now, this is up at lightweight, so Reece is going up a weight. But suddenly, from out of nowhere, he's got a chance to get right back in the mix, because Padley is currently 16 wins, 5 KOs with 1 defeat. The defeat was a couple of fights ago to Shakur Stevenson in a very audacious attempt at the WBC lightweight title. He got stopped in 9 rounds, on the floor a few times, I think, from body shots. But he gave a very, very good account of himself. Came in very late for the fight. He was a late substitute, fought his heart out against one of the guys who arguably is a top 10 pound for pounder. Depends on what criteria you're using for that pound for pound top 10, as always. But no doubt Shakur Stevenson is a very good fighter. And I think showed his class, against William Zepeda recently. But Padley, definitely a case of, giving a game effort, losing, but at the same time your stock rises, and he ended up with a contract with MAKHMUDOV. So this is a big jump back into the mix for Reece Bellotti. What are we in now? August, September, October. I mean, he was beaten up against Garner. I don't think he was on the floor in that fight, but the referee stopped him on his feet. But he didn't win many rounds, certainly not in the second half of the fight. And depending on how much wear and tear he's got on him from that fight, if he can recover and then do a decent camp, he's got, what would he have? Say he starts his camp in a week, for the sake of argument, he'll probably have, probably have an 8-week camp, maybe a 10-week camp at a push. It's a chance for him to get back into the mix. And if he does beat Padley, I mean, at 34, this will be a continuation of that Indian summer of a career that he's had. Now, if Padley wins, he's 29, so he's 5 years younger than Bellotti. But I think it's about time he started going for some of these domestic belts, because he's never actually, I think he's held the area belt, but he hasn't held the English title, the British title, the Commonwealth title, EBU title. He needs to be, picking up some of these belts, because as much as I like Josh Padley, I think he's a terrific little fighter. He gives everything. But even though he gave Shakur Stevenson a great run for his money, I wouldn't say he's world class. You know what I mean? I think he's 29, which is not ancient. It's not particularly young, but it's not ancient. He's probably as good as he's going to get. So I think probably putting him in for domestic belts would be the way to go. Bellotti has held those domestic belts, as I said. So if he was to beat Padley, I think the one he's got missing from his trophy cabinet is the EBU title, because he failed against Garner with that for that belt. But up at lightweight, I mean, he might, if he was to beat Padley, perhaps I don't know whether he'd stay at lightweight or whether he'd come back down to super feather. Garner will probably give up at least one of those belts, and then Bellotti would be in the mix for the vacant belt. So there are options there. But I just thought this was interesting because it does show that if you stay dedicated, if you stay on it, you look at Garner, for example. Not Garner, excuse me, Padley. He was an electrician, but he kept himself fit, he kept himself ready, and then when the chance at Shakur Stevenson came along, he took it with both hands. I mean, Padley was coming off a very, very good win against the previously undefeated Mark Chamberlain as well. But, you know, that was an opportunity. He took that opportunity. He took the opportunity against Stevenson. And if you stay dedicated, you live the life and you stay fit, and both Bellotti and Padley have done this, that just shows you you'll get that reputation as someone who's there to fight, as a real fighting man. And when that happens, the opportunity comes along, you're there to take it. Great things can happen, you know, even if you are defeated, even if you are beaten. And let's be honest, when it comes to Bellotti, there's no shame in losing to Ryan Garner. Ryan Garner's a very, very good fighter. He's not an EBU champ for nothing. So I'm looking forward to this fight because I think this is a very good test for Padley, even though Bellotti's coming up a weight. And also Bellotti, even though he outclassed might be a bit strong, but he was second best against Garner throughout most of that fight. Nevertheless, he didn't look shot. I'm not sure how he'll get on at the higher weight, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a good matchup. I'm looking forward to this fight. So, yeah, let me know if you've got an opinion on this. Comments below. Thanks very much for watching. The start of another week. Work does tend to get in the way of the real world, of real life, but there we are. And yeah, like the video if you liked it. Hit subscribe if you're new, and have a good day. All right, ladies and gents. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.